very glad to have this meeting, which is not the first one with Aspen Kyiv. There are 14 Aspen Institutes in the world. We are a big and a great family. We are strongly united. So as Aspen Institute Italia, we gave the most support we can give to Aspen Kyiv. And we are reflecting in this way how Italians are behaving now. We had in the meeting of Aspen Institute Italia, Professor Bianchi was the Italian Minister for Education and who is a fellow of Aspen Institute Italia, who told us that around 40,000 Ukrainian child and girls are in Italian schools. And that was done in less than 2 months. It was an extraordinary effort by Italian government, but not by Italian government, by Italian society. So schools everywhere in Italy accepted these kids and they put in classes, they arranged to have exchanges with their Ukrainian former teachers, and they are opening the way that these kids can get Italian degrees that will be recognized possibly in Ukraine when all this will be over. So we support you. We support Aspen Institute Kyiv as part of our family, and thank you so much for this meeting. Please.
From my side, just a few words. I'm more honored to welcome our participants, our esteemed speakers, our dear friends and colleagues from Aspen Institute Italy. As you all surely know, 2 weeks ago, Ukraine became the candidate to European Union. I'm grateful to the decision. It is another critical milestone for our country on our path to European integration that started when Ukraine became an independent state, I believe. We understand that it's a long way ahead of us, a lot of changes, a lot of negotiations to be conducted, to be accomplished in the future. We need to understand each other better. And this is the reason why we, together with Aspen Italy, decided to organize this event to support sincere and open dialogue on our common agenda and thus to advance our common future. At this moment, Ukrainian soldiers, and my husband among them, fight against cruel enemy who is clearly aimed to destroy international order in Europe and in the whole world. Like express the gratitude I have to all those Ukrainian men and women who continuously risk their own lives to grant our own choice of the future of our own country. And as you know, now 90% of Ukrainians support European Union integration, as we clearly see who are our real friends and partners. I hope that our sincere dialogue today will enrich our mutual understanding. Special thanks to Aspen Italy for continuous support and partnership. And I wish all of us, I'm very grateful for everyone who joined us today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yulia. Let me thank, together with Aspen Kyiv, the 4 speakers we will have today to exchange ideas and views on the future of Ukraine integration within the EU. Piero Benassi, thank you, Piero, an Italian diplomat and ambassador who is the Italian permanent representative to the European Union. And as you know, the Draghi government was particularly on the front line in proposing the need for Ukraine to get a candidate status to join in the European Union. Then on the Italian side, again, we have Nicola Verola, with the Director General for European Integration and at the Italian National Cooperation. Thank you, Nicola. And on the side of Ukraine, we have Ivana Klimpush-Sinsadze, sorry for the pronunciation, who is chairing the Committee on Ukraine's integration into the European Union, and Natalie Forsyuk. She is the General Director of the Governmental Office on European Integration and NATO. So the two tracks, if you wish, then we will discuss the details. If you allow me, Ukrainian friends, I would ask Piero before to explain to us which is the state of the debate in the European Union, because clearly this decision to grant Ukraine a candidate status was an important political and geopolitical decision, I would say. But we must at the same time restore the credibility of the accession process as a whole, because as we know from the experience of the Western Balkans, we have problems in admitting new members. So there are also various proposals on the table on how to guarantee the credibility of the accession process on the EU side. There is, for instance, one proposal that is to admit new members within the single market in the first phase and then proceed to other steps forward. This is one of the proposals made. Another one made by President Macron, and in Italy by Enrico Letta, the head of the Secretary General of the Democratic Party of the Left, is to create a sort of a confederation around the EU to the accession process. Clearly not, but as a sort of preparatory room, a sort of a waiting room, so as to prepare new members to go in. So there is a debate, and I would like Piero to start from there. How do we discuss this issue, and what is your feeling about the framing and the timing of the accession process to the EU? Please, Piero, you have 7-10 minutes.
Okay. Thank you very much for the invitation, Marta, and good evening to everybody. It's a real a pleasure to participate to this debate. The first question of Marta is, which is the state of the debate in Europe? The first reply I can give, there is a permanent debate on that, in the sense that we don't have not even a single council, both and on social justice and home affairs, not to mention the European Council and Foreign Ministers country. Ukraine is the first point in agenda. So the state of the debate, there is a permanent debate on that. But let me a little bit just to frame the state of the feeling in Europe, and within that, the Italian position. If I may play with the words of today's meeting, the first expression that comes to my mind is that while Ukraine's European aspiration date back several years, the European destiny of Ukraine manifested only since 24th of February with the Russian military aggression to that country, Besides the unprovoked Russian aggression on Ukraine, as everybody knows, has dramatically changed the course of our history in the continent, not to mention the entire Western world. And we are now facing challenges that are not only unprecedented, but were unthinkable just a few months ago in all dimensions, part security, energy, food supplies. As a result, this is a reason because I wanted to play a little bit with the word, the destinies to be analyzed are more than one. Is not only the future of Ukraine, but also the one of the Western countries, in particular of the European Union. The facts, in our opinion, that with the defense of Ukraine, we also want to defend our values, on even worse rhetoric statement. On the contrary, is the awareness that determined and will increasingly determine a change in their strategical political posture, both at national and at continental level in Europe, probably for the West as a whole. This kind of awareness is present every day in the European debate in Brussels. Italy's position on this topic is precisely the evidence, according to our opinion, on how global is the existential challenge launched against our political and value system. Why I'm saying that? If we think, for example, of the enlargement process, which was raised by Marta, my country, just to be honest, until a few months ago, would not have considered a European perspective as a top like Ukraine, Moldova, Georgia. We would not even accepted to address the issue before moving forward in the process in areas such as those of Western Balkans, the latter region, which it goes without saying remains of fundamental importance for us. As Prime Minister Draghi said, the invasion of Ukraine marks a turning point in the European history, calling on us to adopt decisions and actions that would have been unthinkable just a few months ago. So I'm saying that because it's a question of priority and hierarchy, and the events since the 24th of February adjust and fix priority and the hierarchies of the priorities, even for a country which is not a neighbor of this area, like our country. For this reason, I want to stress the position of Italy, because it's the evidence. It's not a question that matters only for Poland, Baltic states. The defense of our values is the defense of our geostrategical position. As far as the enlargement process is concerned, as it was also raised by Marta, I belong to the family of diplomats that results will be given by facts and not only by documents. So we will see. There is the hypothesis, as Marta mentioned, of the participation to the single market, to the formal accession, so that there is the larger, wider Europe, this political community, which was launched by President Macron in his 9th of May speech at the European Parliament. But we repeat every time, this is not going to overlap the accession calendar. As a matter of fact, we intervene in this very moment with a huge amount of measures, a 6 package of sanctions, micro and macro financial assistance, humanitarian assistance, military support. We had as a political result also the enlargement of the NATO, but we have to stay to the fact, the European destiny of Ukraine, it's a fact, it's not an opinion, and everybody has to work in order to have this fact as reality for the future. But we have at the same time to remain pragmatic, in the sense that we have not to put a limit to our ambition, but we will have to use all the possible instruments in order to get this result. So in this sense, the conclusion of the European Council, the last European Council, by giving the European perspective to Ukraine and Moldova, and with a lesser degree to Georgia, it was also clear that this process must be progressed through the own merits of the candidates. So we have to go step by step, not only for logical reasons, but also for the economic and social one. The logical reasons, for example, we have to concentrate ourselves on micro and macro financial assistance as far as the reconstruction of the country is concerned. We put in place an instrument, but of course, before to reconstruct, I have to see somehow an end to the conflict, and not only for humanitarian reasons, but just to know what, where, and when we are going to reconstruct. As far as the different steps that are the main challenges of Ukraine and also the other candidate countries, the analysis of the Commission was, of course, influenced by political reasons, but they took into account all the progress that were made by Ukraine since 2014 until today. And there are 7-8 elements to implement. Let's say that the most of them are in the framework of the judiciary system and the rule of law, and also anti-oligarchic system law, etc. We believe that Ukraine has all the possible standards. But what is important to say is that while it's changing the destiny of Ukraine, we have to bear in mind that we are all aware of that, that is changing our own destiny of the European Union, the Western country, and the West as a whole. I don't know if I use the 7 minutes, 6, 5, 8, but I apply the 3 rules to have something to say it, and to stop when you have said. So I stop here. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much, Piero. And now I would like to give the floor to Ivana Klimpush-Tsintsadze. She's chair, I was saying before, she's chair of the Committee on Ukraine Integration into the European Union, which is, it was a very important point since the very beginning of this crisis, because the 2014 crisis was provoked by the signing of the association agreement to the EU, and the follow-up protests in Maidan against the decision not to sign it, in fact, on the Ukrainian part. So the story, if you wish, of the relationship between Ukraine and the European Union is a story in itself of the last decade. And I would like to know from you, Ivana, how do you see the stumbling blocks on your side? Which are the points that have to be solved so as to be able to make concrete steps forward? Please, Ivana, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Marta, dear colleagues, distinguished co-participants. I am very grateful to Aspen Kyiv and Aspen Italy for organizing this event. I really believe that our direct communication is extremely valuable. I really believe that we have to use even such occasion in order to know each other better. And probably we all very well understand, as Ambassador has already pointed out, that right now we are going through a very, very serious change globally. And it's good that finally we see that our partners in the European countries do understand that the fate and destiny of Ukraine and the result of this war between Russian Federation and Ukraine will actually impact and will shape the global order, and will shape also, from my perspective, the ability of European and Euro-Atlantic project to succeed in the future. I believe that we are right now in the period of changing and in the period of global transformation, and at the same time, it was said here, and I'm a bit astonished by what was said, that the European destiny of Ukraine has kind of appeared after the full-scale invasion of Russian Federation on the 24th of February. Let me disagree. We have always belonged to European civilization. Ukrainians, whatever the country was called, starting, from Kiev and Rus and going through different even countries that our territory with the nation that we have here on the spot, with our nation, Ukrainian nations, which we belong to, we still belong to the Western civilization. We still belong to European civilization. The problem is that over the last 300 or 400 years, we've been with the help of Russian Empire, then the Soviet Union, and then the Russian Federation, we've been erased from the mental, cultural, and historic map of the world. And it took us a lot of efforts, basically from regaining independence 30 years ago, but more importantly, or with more strength, start to return ourselves back on the map, starting from the beginning of this full scale of the invasion. Okay, not full scale at that particular moment, back in 2014. But we still have not been very well heard. And because of the lack of the resources, because of the very successful routes and ways of Russian engagement in the European and Euro-Atlantic community. And unfortunately, some of the alarm bells that we've been raising over the period of time from 2014 and 2015, they have not been well heard. And I think that on the 24th of February, something that has had to make the whole world to wake up and to actually understand those alarm bells, that was the full-scale invasion of Russian Federation. And I think it's about sincere and very, very open conversation right now, because it is about conversation of also lessons learned. Because some of the decisions or indecisions or indecisiveness or inaction of the world that we believe in and of the values that we are not only carrying through, but we are also very fiercely defending today. Our nation, our soldiers, our community, our society as such, mobilizing itself. Those values have been, to an extent, disregarded. They were taken for granted by many European nations and have decided that those values should not be, don't need protection anymore. And we Ukrainians are proving by our own example that they not only need protection, but they need a very strong protection and common effort in order to prevail and in order to survive and then prevail, I think. So I really believe that without Ukraine, neither European nor Euro-Atlantic civilizational project won't really succeed in the future. So for us, I think it's a task right now to actually decide and work, and maybe Aspen Institutes are such a platform which are capable of working on content, on senses, and they can produce some new ideas how to, with taking this painful lessons, how to ensure that we really are upgrading these projects that have been proven capability over over decades, over the last decades, that have been proven their efficiency after the Second World War. But now I think they need refreshment. And I think something that Ukrainians can bring to this project is some kind of also refreshment. So I really wanted to thank Italian government with Prime Minister Draghi, who actually took a very clear stance right now in this last 4.5 months. It has been extremely valuable that such a country from so-called old Europe is actually taking a very clear stance, and that was very helpful. But I also think that a lot of other governments have been changing their approach because of the position of their citizens. And because their citizens have been moving them to see that some political courage and some political will and some step forward in anchoring Ukrainian future in the Western project, in the European project, by giving this candidacy status, has been very important. And we are really, really seriously grateful, because I believe that this is a very serious, both positive sign for Ukrainian society, which has now the light at the end of the tunnel, that it's not only war that has to preoccupy our minds, but it's also the possibility to transform the country in the future. But also, I think it's about additional energy, or an additional input that has to also change the European community, the European Union, also from within, by creating additional instruments that can be helpful on this way of transformation. Also, I'm looking forward to your engagement in the every single step that Ukraine is making on this way. I has been serving the European integration cause for many years, and who has been serving the Euro-Atlantic integration cause for also basically already a couple of decades in different capacities. I am very much interested in our sincerity and openness, and in making sure that your input and your effort and your money that you are dedicating to Ukraine is used efficiently, is used well, and is used as a possibility for us to become more modern state. Exactly, that's about the state. We need your support in building our capacity, institutional capacity. We need your support in difficult transformation that will still be required by this pace of changing the country after the war is over. But we also know that right now there are also opportunities. If there is a political will in the country, that we can deliver on some of the changes, and especially those preconditions that have been stated in the decision of the European Council, and can actually, even during the wartime, achieve that stage that we can open the negotiations on membership. I really hope that with your help, with your attention, with your scrutiny, with your control, with your monitoring, that will be possible, because you have the strongest partner here in the Ukrainian society, and that's exactly the strongest partner that any of the European institutions have in the Ukrainian state at this particular moment. So I do hope that the new possibilities, and by transforming the country, we will be able to remind everybody who Ukrainians are, not only by our resolute and absolutely courageous fight against Russian Federation, but also by the new ideas that we can bring to the table. I know we can bring to the table, for example, something that is totally helping us today to withhold this attack. It's the ability of Ukrainians to build horizontal ties, to build the networks that are moving the country, or our ability to withhold the attack forward. So I think that that's just one of the ideas that will be very useful for the EU also in the future, not only kind of refreshment of these horizontal ties. And we also understand very well that the EU also needs some reform. And we see that there is already this attempt from the European Parliament to see how to make your decision making more Union would not become the hostage of political interests of just one country or one political force in one of the countries in the future. And I think that that's a very serious discussion. And I understand that this is also a very serious task for the EU. But I think it will only, if you go through that discussion again, totally sincerely, totally openly within the EU, and will manage to upgrade the decision making that is needed and that is in need of upgrade, I think the EU will only come stronger. And we all have seen that over this 4.5 months, the EU has regained its ability to act as a geopolitical player, not only geo-economic player. So I think this gives us positive prospects for the future, for both Ukraine within the EU in the future, Ukraine as part of the European and Euro-Atlantic project, and for European project being kind of redefining itself and maybe reopening itself.
Thank you, Ivana. I have some requests from intervention from the audience, but I think that we go for the speakers first, and then we will listen to these other interventions. Nicola Verola, the floor is yours. Ivana has alluded to the topical point of how to increase what we call the absorption capacity of the EU, meaning the possibility for the EU to work efficiently with higher numbers of member states. So maybe you could also explain a bit better what the EU is discussing on this front. Nicola, please.
Thank you, Marta. Much have been said by Pietro Benassi, and of course I subscribe each and every single word is said on the process and on where we stand with the negotiation. Let me just quickly address your question on the absorption capacity. I think that Ivanka sensed very correctly what's the issue at stake, which is the efficacy and efficiency of the decision-making procedures of the European Union. And there will have to be a debate on this, because we need to move towards more effectiveness in this respect. Ukraine, in a way, has a taste of what means unanimity for the European Union, because this is one of the issues that we have been confronted with in debating on how to better assist and support Ukraine in the last few months. And sometimes unanimity can prove to be quite cumbersome and prevent the Union from acting as a fully fledged geopolitical actor. So she identified exactly one of the issues that we will need to address in the next few months and years. But let me just say a couple of words on the enlargement process as such. Well, the European Council of June 23rd and 24th will be probably remembered for the status in the history books. And I'm glad that our Prime Minister was somehow instrumental to this outcome. But this is not the finish line of the process. This is the beginning of a journey for Ukraine and for the European Union. So I wanted to say a couple of words maybe on the nature of the enlargement. I think this could be useful. Enlargement is for the European Union is a twofold policy. On the one hand, it's a foreign policy instruments, and on the other hand is a transformative policy. When it comes to foreign policy, enlargement has proved a very potent instrument for stabilizing the European neighborhood, for exporting for exporting stability. So it proved extremely successful for stabilizing the countries from Eastern Europe and help them transition towards democracy, rule of law, European standards. In perspective, it has to be used for the same purpose for the Western Balkan stabilization and the quote-unquote Europeanization And it was used in June to send a strong signal, a clear message of solidarity to Ukraine in its endeavor and in this struggle for its freedom, its rights. So this is the foreign policy nature of enlargement. At the same time, though, enlargement is also a transformative policy. Why? Because the European Union does not expand, does not conquer, it brings into the family in a way. When you are a member of the European Union, you enter and you get into the driving seat. So you are really part of all the tools and the machinery. I call it reverse Caracalla. Caracalla was a Roman emperor that in 2012 extended the Roman citizenship to all the citizens of the empire. Now, Rome conquered first, and then at a certain moment decided to grant citizenship to the citizen of the empire. The European Union does the opposite. It first asks you to become citizens, European citizens, in fully fledged European citizens, and then it brings you in. So this is to say that there is work to be done. First of all, the first step is monitoring the full respect of the so-called Copenhagen criteria, the condition for opening the negotiation. And then there will be a process that is merit-based, which Ukraine as a candidate country will have to negotiate the adoption of the European rules and standard, what they call the acquis. This is not about bureaucracy. This is about the nature of the European process, which is, as I say, a transformative process. But I have to say that I concur with Marta when she said we need to give back credibility to the enlargement process. Because when we say merit-based process, it means that it's up to the candidate state to make an effort. But if he does this kind of effort, we need to follow suit and to be true to our promises and then move forward the process, because it has to be merit-based. Unfortunately, this has not always been the case in the last few years with some candidate countries from the Western Balkans. That's regrettable, but I hope that we will manage together to bring back credibility to the whole process. And secondly, in parallel, we will have to put our house in order, like Ivana said correctly before me. One quick conclusion. I don't know how long have I worked? No, I'm still in time. One quick.
Nicola, sorry, since I'm reading the chat at the same time, there is a question concerning which are, in your understanding, the most difficult steps for Ukraine to comply with EU requirements, specifically related to domestic policy changes. Maybe this is also a question for Natalie, who is going to follow you. But the
point. Natalie, we met recently in Rome.
Yeah, maybe this question on
I don't know.
the most difficult steps.
I don't know. I'm not in measure to judge from the outside.
Yeah.
But it's a very committal process. That's what I want to highlight. It's a transformative process, and it needs lots of engagement and stamina, also in addressing potential internal difficulties or flaws. So there will be work to be done on the Copenhagen criteria, address issues, minority rights, democracy, rule of law, fight against corruption, all those things that are the Copenhagen criteria. And then there will be a process which is probably complex, but I have to say, it is complex up to a point, because already within the framework of the association agreement, the Ukraine has done quite a bit in terms of getting close to European standards and regulations. So I don't know, I cannot make it forecast. It's difficult to say, because this is to go step by step with screening, monitoring, answers. It's a communication process, exchange process. So we'll see in the next few months whether there are particular sticky points or issues that are particularly difficult to address. Just let me say one quick word by way of conclusion, Martin. The title of this seminar is very evocative. I like it. But I have to say that I would prefer to speak about the Ukrainian choice, because it's the European future of Ukraine is a choice of Ukraine, and is a choice of the European Union. And now we will need an effort to sustain this choice on both sides, European and European. Thank you very much.
Okay, Nicola, we could say that the choice has already been made, so the choice becomes a destiny, provided that the conditions are fulfilled. But Natalie, the floor is yours for comments. If you are able to reply to the question in the chat, that would be very helpful. Please, Natalie.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to participate in this very important event. I have heard already what our colleagues said from Italian side and what Ivana said from our side. And I'm very happy that Nicola Verola just finished his speech with the choice, because that's exactly what happened when in 2014 Revolution of Dignity happened in Ukraine. That because people made a choice at the time, our president decided to return back from the European path, which was already decided, to sign an association agreement and to go deeper into integration with Russia, and that caused the Revolution of Dignity. And this Revolution of Dignity ended up with 100 dead people killed on Maidan and signing of association agreement. So I feel that, you know, unfortunately, Russian propaganda worked very well. If people in Europe believe that our European path started on 24th of February 2022, because that's exactly not true. And what was mentioned before as stabilizing, really, it was extremely important decision, and we are very grateful to each member state and Italy especially for support of such decision, because finally our choice was recognized by European Union. And the society, we have to think about how people felt and how citizens in Ukraine felt for these years, starting from 2014 till now, when the war has started already, actually on the east of Ukraine. We were feeling a bit like we are punished by Russia for our European choice, you know, and the world is helping us, but very soon the war fatigue came, and it was not really taken seriously from some point. So it's very important now that the war fatigue, which will come sooner or later, and it's starting already, because people are getting tired from bad news, even if they don't live in this bad news, that this war fatigue does not lead to a bigger crisis on the European continent. Because just try to imagine for a second what will be the future of European continent if Ukraine loses this war. Then it will be direct win of tyranny and no democracy values, these democratic basic values of European Union. And the whole continent will live under the threat of nuclear war all the time, and whether we'll have to accept the rules of the game of Russia, or we'll have to come back to basic values of the European Union. And hopefully it will never happen, but Tryon itself, how is it to be a very close neighbor to Russia? This is not easy. So as for transforming exercise, it is exactly true. And now we have a very difficult choice. From one point of view, the political will and this trust that we are giving by the member states providing us candidate status push us to run very quickly. But on the other hand, we understand that if you run very quickly, that at some point you're running out of breath and maybe even shoes, So we have to take this exercise not as a only political exercise, but as a very technical exercise. And this is what we've been doing exactly since 2014, from the moment of signing of association agreement. We were taking this as a technical exercise, and in the opinion of European Commission, you can see that our level of cooperation in DCFTA, energy, our level of cooperation even in smaller sectors is very high, and it's recognized. So we have implemented 2/3 of association agreement before the war started. 63% of our association agreement was already implemented, and that was a very technical approach that we took. Also, before that, before the war, half year before, European Union made an assessment of achieving the goals of association agreement, and it was very positive. We were about to release joint assessment in March, but unfortunately, this was not possible anymore. And another political decision was taken to apply actually for the membership, skipping the joint assessment. But we believe still, and this is the main thing of our external communication improvement, I think, for the future, that our technical exercise was done very well. In aligning European acquis in Ukraine and in actual sector-based integration, as I mentioned before. Now we already have invitation from the European Union to join common transit, custom transit. We have a road liberalization agreement. We have very productive negotiations on roaming. We are approaching further than DCFTA. So we are really coming very, very close to what was mentioned before as a single market. But of course, there are many things to do. We have seen the 7 recommendations, which are crucial for us for opening negotiations. As a government, we already proposed an action plan, what should be done to meet this recommendation by the end of the year. This action plan includes not only governmental structures, because basically recommendations are touching complete reforms in constitutional court, in anti-corruption, even though very big progress is recognized. So it's just a matter of accomplishing it on time and sending a signal, which is very important for the member states, especially in anti-corruption area, which requires not so much legislative changes as political decision. We understand that, and everyone on each level understand that. So we believe it will be done very quickly because it's no choice, but you know, for political decision, because it was taking and boiling for some time, it requires a little bit of time to go through. As for what could be done, from our governmental side, we also have analyzed our association agreement, and we already provided a list of legislation that should be adopted to meet from legislative point, implement association agreement 100%, and we already have a political will from our president that this draft laws should be ready by autumn, and then the ball will go to the parliament on a quick adoption. So we are ready to move very quickly in all areas which are possible in the conditions of war, because not everything is possible, because if it undermines our defense or other possibilities, not everything is possible. So we will need to find a transition solution, how to do it in a sustainable manner. As for reconstruction and all these things that are very important, of course, now for Ukraine, we understand that no one knows when the time of safe investments will come. But already now we have some urgent needs where we really count on help of member states. First of all, it's demining, because Russian mined all territories where they've been. They have put, you know, bombs and mines everywhere, starting from children toys and finishing with cars and everything. Even in the fields, you know. So for our agricultural and food security, it's very important to help us with demining of territories, and we really count on support of us in this area. And the other thing, which is also very important, every city or every village which is occupied by Russian, what they do, they immediately destroy water, gas, and energy supply. So we need, when we free our territories, we need to restore and renovate this water, gas, and energy supplied before the winter, because it's crucial for people living there. So this is something that probably does not require some very, very big decisions like real reconstruction of the territory, but it requires sustainable and also technical approach in supporting us with this, because without this it will be very difficult to go through this winter for the normal people, who will simply die either on mines, either from cold. So this is very important for us, and I would really be happy if this message could be transformed. And the last but not least, our only way now to replace our seaport, our deliveries through the seaports that were done before through the seaports, is Danube River. And it's important to invest probably and create completely new infrastructure on the Danube River in order to export agricultural products through the Europe to the rest of the world, because unfortunately it doesn't seem easy, or it doesn't seem that we will have control on the Black Sea in the nearest future, and this global food crisis could be only avoided if we will have some sustainable export mechanisms through road transport, rail transport, and Danube River, because other two rivers, which are already part of TNT network, are blocked and a bit useless at this time for this purpose. What will be the most difficult? I don't think that anything can be really difficult when we see the clear criteria of success. We already have planned several calls with the Commission to clarify some of the recommendations, which, for example, connected to how to say it, to the connection between investigation and convictions of the court. The court is a very independent institution, and it's not really possible, you know, to tell the court what they have to do. So we have to identify very clear criteria, because the court convictions should not be only following the investigation, and they also have to be fair. So this is the balance that we have to keep, and so on such criteria, we will need to very clearly identify with the European Commission what is the success criteria to meet, and then I don't think there will be any problems to meet them. That's from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Natalie. Now we have a few requests for intervention. We also have another question in the chat concerning the future global security architecture, whether the UN still has a future, or is it beyond repair, in a sense, with no chance of reforming it. I don't know whether Emma Bonino would be ready to intervene. She's a member of the Senate in Italy. She was a former commissioner in the European Union and a very important expert on foreign policy, Minister for Foreign Affairs. Emma, please, you have the floor.
Sì, grazie Marta. Grazie davvero di questa discussion.
Thank you, Marta. Thank you really for this discussion.
I am one of many who are pleading for a reform of the European Union. Institutionally speaking, the veto question, the power of the parliament. As to say to you that we also are involved in a process of IO transformation. And I think that the war and the pandemic before have, let's say, made people aware how Europe is important, and that going alone, each of us, we go nowhere. So that is a major change. I mean, I think I'm looking at my country, where there have been a period of leaving Europe, leaving euro, leaving what have you, and forgoing where, nobody told anybody. So for us, evidently, enlargement is not only a social and cultural, but also a political tool. And I would like to be sure that Ukraine, like the others members apply, are fully aware of what it does mean to live in a family of 27 countries. It's not a mathematical question, but is willing to be part of the success and failure of this family. Now, as you know, there are other countries who are in the process that you are going to start. Serbia, Macedonia del Nord, eccetera, eccetera. And their experience show you that it's a very long way. Sometimes the government also change opinion. We have seen governments very fond of being involved in Europe, followed by governments who were much more skeptical. Now we have the crisis in the UK, by the way, and which is a little bit ridiculous, but having said that, it's really a change, like it has been in Slovenia, for instance, or in other countries. So you will be all together. And what I would like to suggest you is to try to know these new members, because you are in the same way. And I don't think that the Europe can change the rules exceptionally for one country. And I would advise Europe not to do it. That can be a source of tension with other possible member state. So I would suggest as a further step that you try to meet your colleague in the process of accession, to share some experience, but also that this process can be very difficult. And I don't want to scare you, of course. I want just to say that I suggest that you are completely aware of the complexity and sometimes also the difficulty of other member states or the incoming member states. If we manage to do this and melting a little bit the different position, can be a success story. But it's not empty of danger and difficulties.
Thank
By the
you.
way, still you are at war. There is the reconstruction of Ukraine. There has been recently, I don't know where, in Switzerland, someplace.
Lugano.
Lugano. A conference on reconstruction. So let's say your enthusiasm, but be realistic. Okay.
Thank you, Emma. Yeah, in a sense, even if it is clear that the reconstruction can start only when the war is over, because it is difficult to see how could we have investments in a war-torn country. Yet my feeling is that the process of reconstruction could help the accession process, because after all, would be more or less the same. So that could be helpful in a sense. Clearly, the amount of money is rather stunning, 750 billion euros, no nuts, to be honest, in a situation in which all the Western economies are in trouble for inflation, stagflation, etc. But in any case, the two processes could be mutually reinforcing, in my view, and I saw, Piero, that Ursula von der Leyen announced today a new conference together with the German presidency of the G7 on Ukraine reconstruction after the summer. We will see. I had another request for intervention from Lia Quartapelle. She is an Italian MP. Here she is. Lia, please, you have the floor.
Yes, I'm getting out of the hall. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Marta, this, and hello especially to Ivana, which I'm very happy to see. Echoing what Emma was saying, I think that there is one thing that we can do collectively to respond to Russia's challenge. The only thing that is in our hands is to strengthen the European integration process. And of course, Ukraine will be an important part of the strengthening process, in the sense that we welcome, even if we don't welcome it as a member, but we welcome it as a candidate country. We welcome a country that is big, that is really powerful, both agriculturally and in defense, and that's given also the opportunity of reconstruction that entails a lot of opportunities in terms of investments. So Ukraine will be a game changer, is a game changer, and we have to take it as such. And it's important to stress this to our Ukrainian friends with which we discussed the thing at length in Kiev, and not only that, you have to understand that we will have to do homework. You will have to do homework, but we will have to do homework in order for the house to be ready. And so some of the hesitancy, some of the doubts that you saw has to do with this fact that we have to make room for a big change in the European Union, be stronger together. So this is it. We will have to think politically. We will have to think on how to make the European Union work as a decision mechanism, which it hasn't. And we will have to make it work in an economic term. This is mainly it. And I think we will have to discuss a lot with you. Thank you very much, Marta, and thank you very much for all the speakers so far.
Thanks a lot. Maybe I would like to give the floor back to Ivan. I know that you have to leave. What would you reply to Emma Bonino in particular, this impetus to this idea that we all have to be realistic, and it would be useful if you try to connect with other accession countries, which are all of them from the Western Balkans, except for Turkey, but the Turkish issue is more or less out of the radar for the moment being, I guess. Ivana.
Thank you so much, Marta, and thank you for all the interventions and all the input. Let me just reflect on a couple of things. As you suggested with regard to what Madame Bonino was saying, we definitely will have to connect to European institutions, to European Union member states, to those who are potentially going to also receive candidacy status, those who haven't received that yet, those who have who are right now following the path of fulfilling the criteria and changing their countries in order to meet the conditions for on their way through opening chapters for negotiations for accession and so on. But I do not think that we have to be exclusively kind of tied within only the circle of those countries who are aspiring our common to become member states of the EU. Definitely, I think we all can enrich each other by our own experiences, by hurdles, by maybe some know-hows, and that is going to be very, very useful. But I also think that some of the experiences of those countries who have gone through this way and who have already achieved the results also is extremely valuable for us. And here I would like to also ensure that this is not about something that we have, thank God, heard being displaced as a substitute for the European Union membership, as that political union or that political community that President Macron was suggesting at the very beginning. I have the feeling that maybe at the beginning he didn't really have the very clear idea of what that has to be, and only after that there was some pretty harsh reaction, even from Ukraine, from my perspective, that has started to take kind of some shape, what that political community might be. So I hope that this is not the suggestion that you guys in this kind of club of those aspiring nations, you decide between yourselves, and then we will think how to work with you for the future. I hope this is not that suggestion. So I think we have to use all the possibilities of talking to different people, different nations, and we can learn definitely from many of them. And we are eager to learn. We are capable learners. We are quick learners here in Ukraine. And definitely, I've heard also that there was this comment that, there were different governments coming more skeptical in different countries, more skeptical and more decisive in the different countries' way towards European Union. I think, that's my feeling, I might be mistaken, but I don't think that I am, that there is too much of a price, too difficult, too bulky, too bloody road that we are following in order to get to the dream, in order to get to our strategic goal. So I think that Ukrainian society will be the society that will not allow any government, neither now nor in the future, to be Eurosceptical. And I think that that's kind of the major push for us, for those who are in politics or who are in the government, who are in public service, who are in the non-governmental organizations and are capable to provide professional support. And that's, I think, the biggest incentive for us to move as fast as possible. So we need capacity building, and I will return to this because someone has been asking, what are the major obstacles? We can talk about, okay, one of the major goals to really achieve that the rule of law is finally functional in Ukraine, and that it will be true. But we definitely will not reach that if we do not have the institutions, if we do not have balance of powers, if we do not have the independence of those institutions that have to be independent. And I think that's and professionalism and policies in this. So I think that these are basically, from my perspective, the major tasks and major challenges that will, once solved, will allow us to move faster, multiplied, I hope, by political will that will be based on the desire and on the will and on the clear choice of Ukrainian society. And yes, Ukrainian society back in 2014 has made its choice by taking it to the streets, but Ukrainian society has been making this choice again for centuries. And even the revolution of dignity was not the first revolution that we've gone through. And that was always about our choice for democracy, for our rights, and for freedoms, because we had Orange Revolution, and that was exactly about choice, about the freedoms and the rights and the path. We had the student revolution that was at the very early 90s, basically before Ukraine has announced its independence. But and that revolution was also about freedom, about independence, about democracy, about choice. So that's why I'm saying we've had a bulky way. Unfortunately, it's too bloody at this moment, but I think that we will manage. Should we, with your help, and we are very much counting on this, with your help, dedication, more weapons every single day, more heavy weapons, win this war and kick the authoritarian terrorist state, violator of the international law, from not only from our territory, but from their ability to dictate their rules to the whole world. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivana. I would like to go back to Piero one moment, asking him one point we didn't touch at all. It could be interesting. Do you think that the accession to the EU, given the Article 42, also gives some sort of a reassurance from a security perspective, because the NATO issue is out of the radar for the moment being, at least, while the EU has a security clause, Article 42.7, that is never mentioned. Which is your feeling on that, Piero?
Well, just to be honest, I don't have a particular feeling on that, in the sense that there was no discussion, specific discussion on that. This issue was not raised in this very moment. If you're going to accede to European Union, I'm going to embrace the whole of the treaty. So when the time will come, these countries will be benefit also the Article 42. We know that in real terms, in substantial terms, even if has a great political value, the Article 42 was applied in some occasions more than in terroristic attacks than in military situation. We have to say that the value of this article will be functional to the development of the autonomy in the defense policy of the European Union, which is going to begin seriously only now with a strategic compass. I think that the political clause is the most important guarantee to these candidate countries so far. To insist in a debate like that, in my opinion, I'm not talking on behalf of no one, because there was no developed discussion also at the governmental level. So I'm talking, I represent only my personal opinion. This is an issue that could be seen better along the years, over the next years, is not particularly present in the debate now. And I think also that is because is going to introduce some further element of division, just because we know that the sensitivity of the different member states on these very issues is not the same. We have a united approach, but not with the same sensitivity. This was one of the very important political results of these first 4 months. As Emma said, we belong not only to a number of member states, but we have to accept also the minimum common element which united us, but also in the debate of these 4 months, in many aspects of the European support to Ukrainian, the difference in sensitivities and the fear and the sense of danger of different member states was rather evident, according at the end of the story, according to their geographic position. So maybe a debate on Article 42.7, well, it could be somehow premature. This is my impression from Brussels in this very moment.
Thank you very much. I have 2 final interventions. Davide La Cecilia joined our discussion, so perhaps Davide, you could take the floor and say something more. And Natalie, last, I've seen that you have NATO also in your title, in your position as diplomat. Maybe you would like to say something on that. Are you?
Thank you very much, Marta. I listen with pleasure. And with more pleasure, I send a strong hug to Ioanna, with whom I had so many moments of dialogue during my time as ambassador in Kiev. And I remember how many times she told us in her capacity how Ukraine was fighting for all of us. And my comment is that we should have paid more attention. The beginning of this process of accession to the European Union is a very important opportunity, I believe, for Ukraine and also for all of us. In my time as ambassador before the invasion, this was hypothetically collocated in the middle late 20s, when there were going to be 2 or 3 consecutive like-minded presidencies of the European Union, which were said to be more in favor of a rapid process of accession. And so these days events, as much unfortunate as they are, provide us with an extraordinary opportunity to anticipate something which deeply meets the aspiration of the Ukrainian people, I believe. There are comments we read in the media, analysis saying that this war finally unified one nation, that in spite of the language you speak at home, your family ties, your religious or cultural identity, a common enemy is what definitely molded the nation. But what I can say is that this European aspiration of the Ukrainian people has always been there, not only in the young or the most dynamic part of the society, and they are not even so recent. They were very clearly recognizable. For example, when you go to an Italian film festival, there is a theater packed of enthusiastic people watching Fellini or Visconti. You really wonder what's the difference with us, why their destiny should not correspond to their aspirations, and why they shouldn't be able to take their destiny in our own hands. And also you understand that you cannot be there just sitting and watching. So I'm very much sure that this process, as long and painful as my colleagues anticipated, without them mentioning the pain that the war will continue to inflict to people, this journey towards the membership will be a success, and that Ukraine will be a big success story. And this is, by the way, what our enemies fear the most. A democratic, successful Ukraine, which can show the Russian public opinion that there is an alternative model, a better alternative working model. So best wishes. We will accompany this journey up to the end. We will continue to support you. You are fighting for all of us. And if I have one more minute, I would like to say also that it's very important that the process of accession takes place in parallel with the reconstruction of the country. The aim should be to build back better. Reconstruction is a huge task. The fact that, as it was correctly said, that to have the two processes together provides a very important opportunity to rebuilding through the redesign of the Ukrainian economy and the social system by implementing a real transformative change. For our side, European countries shouldn't see reconstruction as a cost, I believe. European companies will be able to win contracts for the infrastructure, for housing, for transport, much more, but they will have to transfer know-how, they have to transfer technology to Ukraine. And in addition to this, there is a big investment for us in the value of Europe and its security, which will, I think, definitely lead 40 million people into the liberal democracy, the market economy, a very important achievement, which is parallel to the one we achieved a few decades ago with the Marshall Plan, which brought the economic miracle, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot. That conclusion on the Italian side, I guess. And Natalie, maybe you can have the final word on the Ukrainian side.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm very happy to hear these last words because my background is very tightly connected with infrastructure, and we are really looking forward to the time where we can meet European investors, because first of all, we don't need only speedy reconstruction, but we also need the quality performance in the end. So all this know-how, technologies, and everything is something we are really looking forward, and we will do everything possible to apply best European standards of transparency and accountability, so everyone feels safe in these investments, and it can also, I support the idea, boost the European business and companies who will come and invest. As for the NATO, you were asking my opinion. Obviously, in the beginning of war, there were a bit different expectations from our side, but after the NATO summit, I can obviously tell you that our general aspirations to join the NATO has not changed. It's written in our constitution, and we still believe that this is our goal, our next target to become a NATO member country. We just hope, from 2014, from another February back in 2014 till this decision where finally NATO acknowledged and recognized Russia as a threat, it took more than 3,000 days. So we just hope that it will take less than 3,000 days to take strategic leadership on the peace agenda at European continent from NATO side. And for this summit, we didn't have any expectations because we were more obsessed, I would say, with the importance of our European path acknowledgement and the candidate status. But I believe that after this important decision was done in NATO, that Russia is recognized as threat, that we can really bring new wind of fresh wind of changes in the relationship, and we really hope that there is a place for us in NATO.
Nicola Virola has a quick point on this very last point, and then I will go back to Julia and Angelo for a final goodbye to our audience. Nicola.
No, I don't have particular remarks, Marta. Just a light touch to say to Natalie. I think for the sake of your time and your agenda, you might want, in perspective, to split your bureau in two, because once you get into the weeds, negotiations, not because I see any contradiction between working on the NATO and Europe, on the contrary, but in perspective, if you get into the weeds, working on enlargement is a very challenging task and a full-time job. So, but this is just a suggestion in perspective.
And Natalie is young and energetic. So, Angelo and Julia.
Thank you, Marta. Thank you to AFME Kiev. I think it was a very interesting discussion. We learned a lot about Ukraine, and I hope that you got some good suggestions from our side about the next steps to be doing, especially for being part of the European family. So we shall reconvene soon at your earliest convenience, and please consider us as your true friends. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, dear friends, dear partners. We are very optimistic that we together could build and develop our Europe as a prospering place in this planet and very powerful and secure place in this planet. And it's important to remember that we need to win this war for peace in Europe and democratic values of the world now. And that's why your support is so important, so critical, and we are so grateful for all efforts. We really feel the support of Italian government, Italian people. And we do believe we have no other options just to win this war and to build strong, transparent, prospering Ukraine as part of European family. Thank you for being with us, standing with Ukraine. And thank you, my dear partner, dear Marta, Angelo, and all the team for being a great friends and supporting us in all efforts. Have a good evening and keep in touch.
Thanks all. Keep in touch. Maybe we could have a European seminar with Ukraine next time, putting together all the Aspen Institutes in Europe. This could be a step forward. And thanks to the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, many of our friends are working on the Ukrainian dossier. We will stay in touch. Goodbye. Arrivederci a tutti.
Arrivederci. Bye bye.
Arrivederci.